All right, so in this image, we have a few fruits here, and we're going to try to establish form using some of these fruits. So the forms are here mainly like circular forms, spheres, and as we have these shapes drawn, we'll just try to add some weight to them. So taking a look here at the paints, we'll just mix, have a bit of blue, some red, and I'm going to go very watery at first. I'll start with the grapes. So these grapes, I'm going to use a very watery blue. I have a little bit of red on the brush, so that's a very light there, a watery like lilac or purple. So the thing about when you're starting to paint, just try to add your little washes, mainly water. You don't need to like paint all of the fruit because some of the spots might be white. But what you want to do is, okay, so these grapes I'm just gonna put in some blues, some very light reds, some purples. So this is just playing around with a little bit of blue, a little bit of red, and quite a bit of water. So, and I am not really like painting from anything. I'm just putting in the colors. Now the grapes at the back should be a little darker. So what I'm gonna try to do for those, put in a little more blue and put in a little more of the purple to make them darker. As I said, a little more blue, a little purple to make them darker. So now that this is kind of finished, with the washes, I'm gonna take a little more red. So I have the red and the blue pretty close because that is what's gonna give me purple. But I'm gonna mainly mix a red color, and I'm just gonna come from the back and just apply. Now I'm not trying to paint this smooth, I'm just really like putting on just little marks so that the paint goes on the fruit. Now from here, I'm gonna put on more blue and just add the blue to it. Now the thing about painting like an object, you don't want it to look flat, so you don't just paint it like smooth all the way. Leave in a few marks, leave in a few light areas, and use the water to kind of like blend the color so that the object becomes like more alive. So with this, I'm gonna kind of stop here with this. I've added some reds, some blues, and now I'm just gonna come. So I have two different reds here, a bright red, and then a crimson. So I'm gonna take more of the crimson, just add a little bit of blue, come here now, and I'm gonna try to like mark in a shadow. So when you are painting, make sure you have like a shadow area of the fruit, which is what I just put in. And I'm just gonna add a little more water to it and a little more blue. So what happens is that the water is gonna allow the paint to like bleed. So now that I've added in that water, all right, I think that's pretty good. I'm just gonna put in some red now, just a watery type of red. So when I say watery light type of red, just a little bit of paint, mainly water. And I could leave in like maybe a little circle type of shape there, because sometimes you can see like reflections on the fruit. All right, so I'll leave that one. Come over here again, watery purple. And I'll do this one here that's close to the front. So once again, I try to leave in like some of these little circles. So even though those shapes will look a little weird now, you want to just leave in shapes so that you can see like the little circular mark that's going to give it like a type of shadow. Now where it meets the other side, I'm going to add more blue here to make it dark. All right, so this area I'm just adding some blue. This is mainly blue. Well, it has a bit of red because it's actually coming out purple. So the thing is, when you're painting, try not to just paint like the whole fruit one color. The fruit has like different sections, so you're going to try to put in a few dots. All right, if you take a look at a fruit, you're going to see that there'll be some reflections on the fruit, and these dots that I'm using, those should try to give the fruit some more form. So this one at the back, I'm thinking of putting that dark. I'm not sure if it's going to work, but mainly blue and red. Yeah, so I'm going to push the blue with this, and as it comes to meet the other fruit, I just try to make sure that the colors are different. So this grape that's at the back is like a darker tone to the one at the front, and what that does is it gives it really contrast. So I actually think I'm going to leave this one mainly blue. So I use the blue for this grip at the back to kind of shape this one here at the front. So I did not, I did not paint an edge on this one here. All right, so as we come up now, I'm just using the tip of the brush to make like dots. And I'm going to put in a little bit of the red, purple, and just dot it in. And I'm going to try to leave some of that lighter area there. Just leave that lighter area. So I think that is okay. And the whole thing about painting is that you just try to work the color. Alright, so as we come further to the front, if my light source is maybe over here or over here, we're going to see some shadows hitting these fruits, maybe to the front. So I'm just going to put in the area for the shadow. Now that should be a little more watery. I'm just going to draw in like a circular piece as if it's a type of shadow. Over here, you have maybe a shadow there, shadow on the other side. So I'm just putting in, these shadows. Now that those shadows are in, some next persons do it backwards. They may do the brighter side. I'm just going to try to add in some of the red. And I'm just going to try to leave a few little circular pieces, like out. And I'm just putting in the red there. And no, for that little circle there, that's like a little too obvious. Just going to put a dab of water. And you can use a very watery brush to try to fill in some of the areas on the fruits. Everything, does not have to be painted harsh and dark and solid. You're just using a very watery brush to put more color onto these grapes. You come out here, I was using mainly a water with the purple, but I'm going to try to come now and get a watery type of red. Now this is a dark red still. I'm just painting in that type of circular motion. Add a little water to the brush. And now right now the brush is very watery. So this, what I'm painting here is a bit watery. That's no problem, because what's happening is that we're going to continue to work the paint. I'm going to put in some red now, a bit of heavier red. I'm not painting it like fully, like solid, just painting some parts. I'm going to use some of the brighter red. So just brighter red. I'm just putting in some of the color. I'm going to use a little more water to spread the color across the fruit. As we said before, it doesn't have to be perfect. We're just trying to make the shape, that circular type of shape. And I'm just going to add some more water to this to see if I can spread it. So the whole thing here is that these should be like little circles, little spheres or balls. So with the ball, you just want to make sure that there's a brighter edge, there's a darker edge. And these are the things that will give the ball life. So blue is a natural color that can make red darker. So that is why I have been using blue. So over here, I'm just going to try to fix up this edge. Here's the same thing. So I'm just trying to get the shape so we can see the shape of the grapes. And I'm not going all around the grape, just doing a bit of the edge, putting in the curve, and then just using like some dots to give the rest some life. And the thing now with here, at a point where we could probably put in some shadows. And these shadows, I'll just use a lot of water. And maybe some of the light purplish color. So water, lightish purple. And I'm going to put some shadows here. It's important to know where the light source is coming from so that the shadows would look, they'll be consistent throughout the drawing. Just going to add a little more purple to it as the shadow gets close to the fruit. Should be a little darker. And there's some shadows in these spaces. Alright, so those are the little white spaces that are in between the drawing. I should probably try to fill these in. And I feel as if I'll leave this here for now. So we're going to move on to the apple. I think I'm going to do this apple here more of a yellow-green apple. And then this one is going to be a darker red. This is going to be orange, green, yellow. So the good thing is to know what colors you want your fruits to be from the beginning. Alright, so I'm going to use a bit of water with the red. Then I'm going to clean the brush. Come out here now, and I'm going to take some yellow. Now, even though you are painting a red apple, now if your light is coming from this way, we're going to have a bit of a shadow here. But even though we're painting a red apple, I'm still going to put in some yellow. One tip is to never do your fruits or your drawings, your paintings, in just one flat color. It's not going to cause them to look pretty. It's not going to cause them to jump up. So I'm going to leave a few white areas in this apple. And that yellow is just in randomly. From here, we take some red. And let's start maybe with the bottom of the apple. So I'm just trying to get a nice outline. And try to leave in some of the yellow. And as I come up, just filling in the red. So once again, this is like a watery type of red. So I'm using a little more water, it helps me spread the color. And now that color is fairly spreaded, I'm gonna go back to the purple from earlier. Start to bring it on the left side of the apple, where there's a shadow. Now there's also gonna be a shadow of the apple right down here. I'm just trying to put some of that there. Get a little more of the purple, and I put it into the top. So try to keep your edges smooth, because the edge of this apple is actually creating the edge of the apple that is more to the front. Alright, so from here more red, actually very strong red. And I'm not painting it in, I'm trying to dot it in. The reason that I dot it in is to try to get some of that color from underneath to show through. get to the top. And so I'm going to try to paint in this piece. And paint in this piece over here. I'm just going to leave in some of the yellow pieces, or the yellow spots. And just add some water. So I've added some water to the brush. Just dab it here. You see how watery this is. And I'm just going to put a bit of a wash here. And I'm just going to draw in the curve of the apple, because I do want to leave in some of the white that's there. And I want to leave in some of the yellow that's there. So now I'm just going to bring a little more water. Try to pull these colors together. As we come down here, take some of that dark red and I'll add it in over here. So the whole key is you want different tones. You want tones that are going to show the shadow of the apple. You want tones that are going to show the bright side of the apple. So because of the little bit of purple that we had underneath, that will cause this side of the apple to look very, very dark. And that is the goal of using the blue and the red to make purple. Now there's a bit of a shadow in here, so I'm going to try to put some of the dark red in here. And try to put some of it to that side. And I'm going back here to the crimson, which is the dark red. And I didn't add any water, I'm just using the solid color. So I come down here where there's a dark piece. And I just try to put in that little dark curve at the bottom. And then I'm going to put another one on this side. The one on this side should probably be blue. Just a solid, hard blue. To really show the outline of that apple. So that is this dark edge. That's going to come around a bit more here. And now I'm just going to put in a bit of the shadow. Shadow again, I'm going to go with purple. So a very watery type of purple. And you don't want it to be very, very thick or dark, but you pull the shadow from the bottom. So I'll leave that there now. Alright, so at this point, I can add a little more red, a brighter red to the grapes. Remember I said I started with a bright red, some crimson over here and here. What I'm going to do is just try to give the grapes a little more life. Just adding this brighter red. It is a bit watery, but we'll see how it goes when I add it. Remember, I'm not painting it all fully. Just trying to use like a few dots as well. And remember, you want to leave in some of these spaces. So the whole point here is just to try to give the grapes a little more richness. And we're filling in some of these spaces that are there. All right, so at this point, I'm going to get ready to do the green apple. So this green apple is going to be mainly like yellow and green. And that's this one here. So I clean the brush. And since it's a green apple, it's easy for me to use a yellow wash so that the yellow can be the color which is underneath all of that green. So once again, you want to leave in some white spaces. I'm just dropping in some of that yellow. And when you paint, you're trying to really paint like in the shape of the fruit. And we still have dark side, light side, even for this green apple. So some of these areas I have like a thick yellow. Some of the areas I have very watery yellow. Remember, the whole point is you want to mix it up. You don't want a boring fruit or boring shape. Alright, so I think that's enough yellow. The green that we have here is it's a bright green, a bit of a dark green. So I'm just going to take a little bit of that green, add it to the yellow, and I'm going to slowly put in that green color. so make sure that the outline is nice. So I'm slowly putting in the green. Come over here and just add a little more green. In some areas I just put in the thick, that thick color. So once again, you're not painting, like you're not trying to paint it smooth. You want to leave in some areas so you can see the white. You want to leave in some areas so you can see that yellow. But once you get the colors like really where you want them, you just try to pull them together. So the whole thing that's going to make this green apple come to life, once again, are those lights and the darks. I'm going to try to add a bit of the blue to the green, just to give us a bit of a darker side. That color is coming out a bit like brown. We just put in some of those darker tones. So the real purpose of that is just to show the shadow. And I've got a few white spaces up here. So I'm just going to try to put in some random green. Once again, try to finish the shape of the apple so that there's a nice curve on the apple. And I'm still not trying to paint it in smooth. I'm just trying to get the colors in closely. And for some of these white spaces, I'll just add a little more yellow there. Alright, so with this, we roughly have our 2 apples. And what I just did was, I just took some water on the brush, just trying to smoothen the colors a little bit. Now up here I can try to put a darker tone or shade there, just to show the top of the apple. And I use a similar type of dark color for the bottom. Once again, I'm going to get some of the light purple and put in a shadow. The shadow is not going to be very dark, just a watery type of color. But as it gets closer to the fruit, it should become darker. Alright, so we're going to move on to the orange. Actually, since we have some green already out, we're going to probably do the 2 pairs in the back. One pair will be a brown, and we do 1 pair. I'm using a similar green. So I was speaking earlier about using the blue, adding the blue to the green, so that you could get a type of darker color. So now I'm just going to take some of the blue, mix with the green, and I'm going to add this color behind. So that needs a little more blue. And the same thing goes here with shadows. This pair that's in the back is going to need some shadows. That's going to add a lot of water to it. And with this pair, we're going to go back to yellow. So we incorporate some yellow into that mixture. And I'm really going to do the right side of that pair, mainly yellow. And I pull the yellow across to the other side of it. Now, if not peeling the back, I don't think I'll do much more with that for now. I'm just going to add some yellow into where it meets the apple. So as we said, the other pear that's here is going to be, you can use a bit of a brown. So same thing, we start with yellow. Just going to add some yellow to it. Light watery yellow. Then add some water to the brown. So if you use the water well, you can spread the color easily. And that's really all I'm trying to do with the water here, to spread it across the pear. So we come back, I'm gonna go back, I want a bit more brown. And I'm just gonna put it in a little darker. So once again, you're not trying to do like a smooth painting. These are fruits, sometimes these fruits are beaten up. So you can put in some scratches. Just try to get the edge mainly smooth. Now since I'm on brown, I'm going to do these sticks. So they stick with the pear. Or the stem. I'll also do the stem of the apple. And even though the stems are going to be brown, you try to mix the brown a bit so that you don't have like all of these stems using the same color. So there's like still some differences between them. Alright, so we're going to have like a green flower here, a green leaf. Alright, so we basically have the stem for the pear that we just put in. Just going to do a bit of the shadow, just the darker portion of that pear with a kind of stronger, darker brown. And we're going to prepare to put in the orange. So with orange, yellow, red, same principle from earlier, watery, and you try to add your light colors first. Now this color that I'm using is from the pear, so that's still coming out a bit brown. So I'm going to try to put in some yellow on its own first. And then once we have in some of that yellow, we'll start to add the red, so that I make the orange type of color. And once again, a lot of water, not trying to paint it smooth. You're leaving in some white spaces. You're leaving in shadows. And you're just trying to fill some of the areas, not all. And the orange has like this curve thing by the core. So that's all I'm trying to do here by this white side. I'm just going to do the kind of the outline by the orange. And I'm going to add a bit more yellow to it. And I'm just going to bring a bit of a darker color to put in a little more detail on the edges. And just put a bit of a darker side down here. Oranges usually have in a lot of low spots. So I'm just going to use a brush and put in some of those dots. Randomly, you don't have to put in 100 dots. You just put in some around the fruit. So you try to kind of give that orange vibe to it. So with that, we'll stop there with the orange. And we prepare to go on to the bananas. So as we keep going, we're going to do the bananas. So I'm going to try to make one banana pretty dark and that's the one that is very close to the pear. So I'm going to use a different green. And once I've mixed it, it's still a bit watery. So the reason that I want this to be darker is because this banana is right next to the apple. So I want to still leave like that brighter side of this apple so that there's a bit of contrast between the two, between the apple and the banana that's behind. Now bananas usually have like these lines that go down. So I've kind of done those lines okay for the banana at the bottom. I'm going to put in one of those lines here. Just put it in at the top, put it in here. So that dark green. So you're making sure that the green of that banana makes the edge there that touches the apple. So I'm going to do the one further at the bottom. This is going to be more of a bluish type of color. So you may realize that it's very watery. I just want the color to spread. As I come up, I'm going to just add the green. So it's a little brighter green, a little further up. I'm going to use some of that, put some of that in the banana up here. And also on the top of this banana. So how these edges are formed will show the shapes of the other fruits that are around the banana. And that's the whole purpose of it. Alright, so I'll kind of leave these two bananas now. And from here, we're going to have this banana at the bottom. Still put in some of the greenish bluish color, but I want this banana to be more yellowish so that we can still have a nice looking set of contrast over here between these two. So very watery. Just add the line that comes down. And I'll add a bit more paint to it. And still you're going to leave in some of the white. Just try to draw in, the core. Put a little bit of yellow onto the other bananas. And that is basically it for this banana. It'll just come very watery in for the top and just leave in a bit of the white. So those are the bananas in the back. Add a bit of brown for the stem. And again, you try to mix it. You don't want it to be one shape or one tone. And I'll also add in, just add a little bit of yellow to that. Alright, so that's the piece there. So we have our banana here. A little bit of the brown cores. We have our apple, 2 apples that we had. And we have our pear in the background. Just going to do leaves now. Use a bit of this green. And as we come further across, I'll just try to carry it into some yellow or even brown. So that's the leaf there. Then we'll just put in the leaf here. Now with a smaller brush, I'll probably come and put more details on the different elements. But at this point, just going to add some shadows. And with these shadows, this is just mainly the drawings of the fruits. I can go in with a lot more detail on these different pieces, but this is just a bit of a watery drawing. What I will do though is just try to draw the back of the table, or the surface where they are. And even though I've drawn that surface, I'll just try to pull out the paint as we go forward. So it's just not too watery. And this is roughly just the beginning painting that we've done, just to practice some of the techniques.